By his good conduct, let him show his work in meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but earthly and spiritual demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambitions exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartiality and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. Let us pray. Our Father,
who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Honorable members, when the business of this House suspended, the Honorable Member for Yamakro had reserved the floor for this morning. The Chair now recognizes the Honorable Member for Yamakro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today on the strength, mercy, and grace of Almighty God, and humbled by the love and support of my family and the good people of Yamakro, who have made it possible for me to represent their interests in this honorable House, and to give an account for my stewardship for the ministry for which I have been given responsibility. Mr. Speaker, the good people of Yamakro continue to allow me into their homes. They continue to participate in our community events and to support our constituency initiatives. It is on behalf of the people of Yamakro and the wider Bahamian community that I rise to contribute to this budget. The Bahamas and its people face challenges that we have never faced before. But overcoming challenges is a defining characteristic of the Bahamian people. Our history illustrates that. I stand here ever mindful of where I came from, a young boy in Dowd's Cat Island, where I spent my formative years. Each of us who have the privilege of representing our people in this House are a testament to the resilience of the Bahamian spirit. Today, I channel that uniquely Bahamian resilience as a humble servant of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to express my appreciation to the Most Honorable Prime Minister, who demonstrated his confidence in me when he appointed me in July 2019 as the substantive Minister of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration. Mr. Speaker, for many on the outside looking in, the Ministry of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration's portfolio might sound like a mismatched government agency thrown together without rationale. But after a year of learning and growing with the help of the dedicated technical experts and staff at the ministry, I understand its role all the better. The Ministry of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration is the entity responsible for providing vision, strategic direction, policy, and information related to the movement of financial resources, goods, and people. Our priorities are to protect, promote, and grow the Bahamian financial services sector, to expand opportunities for Bahamians to engage in international trade, and to facilitate authorized movement of people for the benefit of the Bahamas. In my role as minister, it is my intention to bring greater synergy and connectivity to the portfolio. This synergy will leverage closer cooperation between the Director of Financial Services, the Director of Trade and Industry, and the Director of Immigration, with the collaboration of stakeholders and expert consultation and shared resources in each of these sectors, locally and through our global network. Mr. Speaker, before I begin to report on the ministry's past efforts and future initiatives, I think it is important to ground this presentation in our current economic reality. In early September 2019, Hurricane Dorian, the second strongest storm in recorded history, crossed the Atlantic and made landfall. The storm impacted Grand Bahama and Abaco, causing economic loss estimated at some $3.4 billion and cutting projected government revenue by $238 million. As if that was not enough, in March 2020, we were once again dealt a massive blow. The COVID-19 global pandemic has taken the lives of Bahamians and nearly 500,000 others around the world. Mr. Speaker, the tragedy that COVID-19 has left in its wake has hit close to home for me. I understand, like so many, the seriousness of this virus and in a most personal way. The public health crisis has become an economic crisis for nations around the world due to the necessary border closures, domestic lockdowns, and physical distancing protocols. The member for East Grand Bahama, the Minister for Finance, has reported to this Honorable House that the government expects to see a $977 million revenue shortfall. This shortfall will result in a $1.3 billion deficit, the largest in Bahamian history. While these numbers may be staggering, they should not be surprising. Such a historic deficit is the right response to such a historic crisis. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker, the minister-led administration has a plan to protect our communities and to stabilize the economy. The Resilient Bahamas Plan, clearly articulated by the member for East Grand Bahama, begins the work of restoring our nation after these devastating events. The plan is people-focused, with special care taken for the most vulnerable and continued support for the public health efforts. It is designed to bridge the gap in the immediate term by supporting small businesses and maintaining employment levels. And as the Economic Recovery Committee continues its strategizing efforts, the Resilient Bahamas Plan plant the seed for our future economic recovery through target reform and digitization efforts. It is within this context I will now turn principally to my portfolio and responsibilities, and they are financial services, trade and industry, and immigration. Mr. Speaker, when faced with crisis, we can choose to respond with fear and trepidation, or we can lean in and find the opportunity amidst the challenges. As it relates to financial services, we have decided to lean in and find the opportunities for the advancement of our second most important industry. Mr. Speaker, first, I want to commend our financial services industry and its stakeholders for the resilience they have shown. While activities in other sectors came to a halt, the financial services industry adjusted quickly to the new normal because of its innovation and technology focus. Our financial institutions have transitioned well to remote delivery of service due to the pandemic. None of the current challenges have impeded the current financial services industry from conducting business and delivering bespoke solutions to meet changing diverse client needs. The robust business community plans that are in place with all financial institutions have allowed business to continue during Hurricane Dorian's landfall and during the COVID-19 crisis. Though we continue to gallantly defend against the spread of COVID-19, we have a laser-like focus on what the ministry needs to accomplish to support our stakeholders in the industry. Through improved engagement, continued compliance, collaboration across government and with industry, and aggressive legislative and regulatory agenda and strategic planning to set the stage for the industry's future, we are taking a firm hold on the opportunities of this moment. Mr. Speaker, we have made public and stakeholder engagement a key component of the ministry's work over the last few months. Stakeholder engagement does not require physical interaction, breakfast events, or fancy hotel conference rooms. And given the public health climate, these kinds of activities may not be safe. Given this reality, we have had to lead the ministry into the 21st century. This week, our ministry will launch a new comprehensive website for the 3 departments under my portfolio of financial services, trade and industry, and immigration. I will talk about the features of this new website later on. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the ministry is in the process of rolling out its revamped social media presence via Twitter, Facebook, with a monthly newsletter to keep stakeholders engaged and updated. And in keeping with our commitment to be a resilient jurisdiction, over the past few months, we have continued to execute on our marketing plan with placement in key international publications. Last month, our ministry held its first ever virtual symposium under the theme Financial Services, an opportunity for advancement, innovation, and creativity. It was the first event of its kind for the government, drawing together local and international industry stakeholders and high-level government leaders, such as the Most Honorable Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, and the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs. Event attendees were able to submit questions before the event. This virtual event was attended by over 350 participants, reaching financial services leaders from all over the world. To further amplify this engagement, we sent out a post-event survey. We wanted to learn how we can be better at these kinds of events for our stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, I am proud to report that in our post-event survey, we found that 93% of the respondents rated the symposium as either excellent, very good, or good, with 53% rating the event very good. We have some improvements to make, but the efforts of the team at the ministry were well received, and our collaboration with industry leaders on this event added further value. It is very likely that we will continue these digital engagement events as part of our broader efforts and as a way to protect the health of our staff and stakeholders. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, my ministry had to reduce its financial budgetary requirements, mindful that we are currently in challenging times. These virtual symposiums are one way that we can reduce the cost that these industry events has had on the ministry's budget in the past. When restrictions are eased, we, along with our strategic partners, will return to the international promotion of the Bahamas. But in the meantime, we know that stakeholders are only a click away. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, whereas in the past, the ministry, along with our strategic partners, the Bahamas Financial Services Board, AIBT, and STEP, would partner in signature landfall events were typically designed to globally market the Bahamas financial services industry through overseas seminars and conferences. We have no immediate plans for international travel and interpersonal marketing trips. We are mindful of the necessary COVID-19 protocols, and we are tightening our belts to keep in line with budgetary constraints during this financially challenged time. Mr. Speaker, it is important to note the efforts of the Bahamas Financial Services Board here as well. The board was launched in April 1998 and represents an innovative commitment by the financial services industry and the government of the Bahamas to promote a greater awareness of the Bahamas' strength as an international financial center through public-private collaboration. Member engagement has been a priority for BFSB to ensure that firms are able to meet their clients' needs. Last month, BFSB issued a survey to obtain recommendations from the industry with respect to strategies for the way forward for the sector. BFSB, in collaboration with AIBT, also worked to obtain clarification as to the impact of the emergency orders on the operations of members' firms and government agencies to ensure minimal disruption to the delivery of services to clients. Mr. Speaker, as it relates to financial services, the government of the Bahamas remains committed to international compliance. We are committed not only because it is in our best economic interest, but because we share a common set of values with our bilateral and multilateral partners. As we are bombarded by the international pressure of compliance and adaptation to continuous regulation threats, we remain resolute to continue to operate in transparency and cooperation. Mr. Speaker, we are all well aware that the financial services sector is a major driver of our economy. As such, we are devoted to meeting the highest international standards of tax cooperation and tax transparency, in addition to other international best practices to preserve the Bahamas' reputation as a clean and compliant financial services jurisdiction. As a nation, we have embraced the concept of transparency and cooperation. With extraterritorial laws and the automatic exchange of information, the operating environment within which we provide financial services has been transformed. The reality is that the Bahamas has demonstrated a long-standing commitment to being a responsible member of the international community, and the same is true today. In this regard, the government continues to work assiduously to ensure that every step is taken to demonstrate our continued commitment as we come under scrutiny from international bodies such as the FATF, the OECD, and the EU. Mr. Speaker, we understand that we operate in an integrated global financial services market. The country's counter-money laundering, anti-terrorism, and proliferation legislation and tax cooperation framework must meet international best practices, standards, and norms. There is a requirement for continuous improvement as the goalpost shifts, and we are dedicating resources to ensure that we put in place systems that safeguard the reputation and integrity of the Bahamas as an international financial services center. Mr. Speaker, together we are working to protect the brand of the Bahamas as that of integrity and exceptional transparency with our international obligations, while balancing confidentiality and safety to our international clients who value the Bahamas as the premier choice for financial services. For over 80 years, the Bahamas financial services industry has been a global leader. We are a well-regulated jurisdiction with expertise that can be compared to anywhere in the world. The industry remains at the forefront, and as it evolves, our ministry is working to meet the sector's needs. One way we intend to be responsive to the sector's needs, Mr. Speaker, is to advance an aggressive legislative agenda over these coming months. The agenda includes the Nationality, Immigration, and Asylum Bill 2019 to reform the law on nationality and immigration, make new provisions for asylum and for connected purposes, tax residency. As the ministry recognizes that the importance of a progressive, modern financial sector, it is in the process of finalizing the tax residency program, which could serve as a gateway for more high net worth investors. Additional legislative amendments include the removal of the requirement for the use of seals, Companies Amendment Bill 2019, to make new provisions for and provide flexibility in relations to the execution of contracts, deeds, and other instruments, and remove mandatory requirements for a company to have a common seal. International Business Companies Amendment Bill 2019, to make new provisions for and provide flexibility in relations to execution of contracts, deeds, and other instruments, and remove the mandatory requirement for an IBC to have a common seal. Property Exclusion of Deeds and Documents Bill 2019, to make new provisions with respect to the execution of deeds and other documents, and to remove the mandatory requirement of a seal to validate the execution of an instrument as a deed. Clarification on the rules against perpetuities. The Rules Against Perpetuities Abolition Amendment Bill 2019 to clarify the existing law as it relates to the abolition of the rule against perpetuities and the disposition of interest in property in trust. Clarification on who may benefit from the use of a foundation. Foundations Amendment Bill 2019 to amend the Foundations Act to make clear that a foundation under this act created for a charitable purpose may benefit persons anywhere in the world. Or the abolition of perpetuity period. The Rule Against Perpetuities Abolition Bill 2019 seeks to make it clear that where an order has been made or is made since the coming into force of the Rule Against Perpetuities Abolition Bill, Act 2011, that the order does not result in a new trust or settlement being created. Mr. Speaker, among our closest allies in the effort to advance our financial services industry is the Bahamas Financial Services Board. We are committed to continuing our public-private relationship. Our collaborative efforts with BFSB are paramount in keeping the international community informed of our progresses and, in addition to our legislative agenda, through continuous dialogue with industry, we are able to implement policies to support the sector's growth and increase competitiveness. The various working groups and committees of the BFSP continue to engage with the government and industry stakeholders on matters that require policy action and involve product development. The co-chair of the BFSP Tax Working Group met with officials of the Department of Inland Revenue, or DIR, to discuss the amendments to the Business License Act, specifically export turnover. During that meeting, the co-chairs expressed to officials at the DIR the intention to draft recommended guidance notes to assist in clarifying export turnover. The guidance note will look at different scenarios to craft the most appropriate definition for export turnover. It was expected that a draft of the guidance note would have been completed by 16th March 2020. However, the COVID-19 epidemic has delayed this. The FinTech Working Group met during the first quarter of 2020. The Securities Commission was present to give an update on the Digital Assets Register Exchange Bill 2020, or DARE. The Securities Commission indicated that the DARE bill, which was circulated for consultation, has been revised and that an updated version of the bill is expected to be released soon. Mr. Speaker, these new policies on our legislative agenda speak to the ministry's determination to walk shoulder to shoulder with the financial services industry into the future, laying out a strategic roadmap to that future is vital. My ministry is demonstrating its commitment to move the financial services sector forward through expanding human resources to advance the ministry's work. To complement the needs of the department and our ability to respond to our stakeholders in a timely, efficient manner, the ministry has filled the role of Director and Deputy Director of Financial Services and shall very shortly fill the role of the Director of Trade. Mr. Speaker, It is important to point out that it has been 6 years since the ministry has had a director of financial services, or since 2013 that we have had a director of trade. We have filled this vital position to ensure that we have internal capacity to support the industry. The work of the director will also be strengthened by the deputy director. And I want to note here that despite the importance of the financial services industry to our national economy, there has never been a deputy director in the Ministry of Financial Services. We are putting our money where our mouths are. Mr. Speaker, I hope that this further demonstrates our commitment. With the support of this new staff complement, the Ministry of Financial Services is committing to charting a strategic course for the industry that is both comprehensive and transformational. Mr. Speaker, we cannot take for granted our role as a leading jurisdiction, and we cannot waste 80 years of primacy only to fall behind as others evolve. With the Bahamas Financial Services Board, our industry stakeholders, together in partnership, we will embark on an industry strategic planning initiative. We will rise to meet the moment and to solidify substantive policy for the repositioning the Bahamian financial services sector deserves. I am confident that together we will continue to respond to the challenges and maintain the soundness and stability of our financial services industry, leveraging the lessons learned. Mr. Speaker, I'm especially elated and proud to announce here in this Honorable House that we have been fortunate with the appointment of a new permanent secretary in the person of Ms. Janice Miller, an effervescent, articulated, hardworking, patriotic, Bahamian, phenomenal lady. Given the process we have already made, the opportunities to prepare our financial services sector for the future, and commitments to address the challenges we face in the present, I invite the financial services sector to stand with the government as we work to strengthen the value proposition of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, I began by anchoring this contribution in the economic reality we currently face. The 2020 budget is being debated in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has upended the world as we knew it and has magnified the interdependence and interconnectiveness of the global trading system. The Bahamas is no different from many nations across the globe, trying to protect vulnerable sectors and to mitigate the economic and social consequences of lockdown. Economists are predicting a sharp global economic downturn. The IMF, for example, expects that the global economy to shrink by 3% in 2020. The economy of our primary trading partner, the United States, is expected to shrink by more than 5%, and our own economy will likely see a decline in its GDP or more. Given the Bahamas' continued reliance on tourism, financial services, and foreign direct investment as a driver of the economy, we must find ways to diversify the economy, reduce unemployment, and raise the standard of living of the Bahamian people. And I must commend the Minister of Agriculture for the vision, intestinal fortitude, and drive that he has exhibited in the ministry for which the Most Honorable Prime Minister and the people of the Bahamas has given him responsibility. In addition, given the Bahamas' geographical position in the hemisphere, the Bahamas holds a natural strategic position at the crossroads of the Americas, with shipping lanes from Europe and Asia passing through our waters. Our close proximity to North America means that any businessman can be in the United States within half an hour and access a market of more than 500 million customers. We have to capitalize on this. In that regard, the trade-supported initiative helps empower small and minimum-sized enterprises and is critical as companies seek to diversify, keep their supply chains moving, and adapt to shifting market conditions. Business the world over, including those in the Bahamas, need to be informed and engaged in such initiatives taking place domestically, regionally, and internationally. Mr. Speaker, the administration is mindful of both the benefits that can accrue from trade, but also the vulnerabilities of the Bahamian economy. The realities of this state of affairs demands that we make more difficult but necessary changes. Mr. Speaker, the fact is that global trading trends are not supportive of a traditional industry concept of manufacturing a product from the ground up, meaning that one jurisdiction creates an entire project for export. Rather, there is a considerable demand for jurisdictions where imports from various countries are brought together at a trading center where the production process might be advanced or completed. Such partial or finished products are then exported globally. The phenomenon referred to as global value chain is one the Bahamas may capitalize on as we seek to diversify our economy. Mr. Speaker, that is why the Bahamas has adopted a value-added trade strategy. A value-added trade strategy is one that seeks to increase the value of a product at each stage of the production, utilizing both trade in goods and services. It has the potential of leveling our trade balance by simultaneously increasing our export of goods, namely the value-added product, and services, for example, distribution, transportation, and professional services. The Bahamas is an ideal candidate. New Providence has seen significant infrastructural development, a deep water harbor able to accommodate the largest of cruise ship vessels, modernized roadways, a state-of-the-art international airport, upgrades to our telecommunications infrastructure, and the government's e-platform. Then there is Freeport. Freeport presently contains the necessary international trade logistics infrastructure for the creation of a value-added trade center. The trade logistics infrastructure is arguably the best in this hemisphere. Freeport has the largest deep water harbor in the hemisphere and operates a container port and transshipment terminal with the existing capacity to receive the anticipated Panamax-sized ships expected with the expansion of the Panama Canal. There is also the shipyard repair facility located in Freeport. The Ministry of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration believes that the Bahamas has the infrastructure to place the Bahamas in the middle of the value chain. The trade agreement, which we have been busy negotiating, can provide the necessary market access for those goods and services. Additionally, capitalizing on the potential opportunities which could exist from participating in a global value chain provides a tangible opportunity for trade to become an economic development tool for the Bahamas and to become the third pillar of our economy, providing new employment opportunities for Bahamians. But, Mr. Speaker, these trade agreements means nothing if Bahamians do not know that they exist or how they can take advantage of them. The two Economic Partnership Agreements, EPA, signed by the Bahamas, the CARIFORUM European Union EPA, and the CARIFORUM UK EPA, provides important platforms for the Bahamas trading engagement with the international community and an opportunity for growth if we take advantage of these provisions. In 2008, the Bahamas and other CARICOM member states and the Dominican Republic CARIFORUM negotiated and signed the reciprocal, albeit asymmetrical, Caribbean Forum Economic Partnership Agreement with the European Union. The signing of the CARIFORUM EU EPA by CARICOM member states and the Dominican Republic and the EU opened up an enhanced trade between Europe, CARIFORUM, providing market access to a wide range of goods and services. As a member of CARIFORUM, the agreement has the potential to improve the way goods and services are imported and exported exported to and from the Bahamas into the EU and other CARIFORUM states, and is another step which facilitates the ease of doing business. It is also an important tool which can be used by Bahamian businesses to increase trade opportunities and to diversify our economy. Mr. Speaker, trade agreements that developed countries like the Bahamas negotiate often include important technical capacity opportunities, and the EPA is no different. The Economic Development Funds, or the EPA, helps CARICOM countries like the Bahamas to implement the agreement. The agreement provides an opportunities for states like the Bahamas to catch up and to build capacity. It provides opportunities for the Bahamas to access invaluable technical assistance and funding available under the agreement. For example, with funds made available from the EDF resources, the Bahamas was able to establish a trade information portal. The portal represents a collaborative public-private initiative between the Ministry of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration, and the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation. The trade portal's establishment is an important business facilitation measure aimed at reducing costs and time required to access trade information on the Bahamas, effectively increasing transparency and improving the ease of doing business in the Bahamas. More than ever in a post-COVID-19 era, it is an essential tool available to the business community to access up-to-date relevant trade information for persons and companies who want to trade with the Bahamas, or for Bahamian businesses intended on exporting to other countries. The government support for the engagement of trade information specialists to administer the trade portal in collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce and the Employers Confederation ensures that information on the portal is relevant and current. I want to remind Bahamian businesses that registering on the portal is free of charge and brings validity to their business both at home and internationally. Mr. Speaker, for most CARIFORUM countries, including the Bahamas, United Kingdom, or UK, is a major trading partner. With the withdrawal of the UK from the EU, CARIFORUM member states sought to have in place a signed preferential trade agreement with the UK by the time the UK left the EU in order to avoid interruption in its preferential trade with the UK. On November 27, 2019, the Bahamas signed the CARIFORUM UK Economic Partnership Agreement to ensure trade continuity with the UK, following on from the 10 years Economic Partnership Agreement signed between the Caribbean Forum or CARIFORUM member states and the European Union. In the case of the Bahamas, which is not a WTO member and only has observer status in the organization, without signing the CARIFORUM UK agreement, trade was no legal guarantee that Bahamian exporters would have continued to enjoy the most favored nation rates, which gives us a preferential trading agreement with the UK. Effectively, this would have meant that Bahamian exports entering the UK market would have been more expensive to potential purchasers, putting the Bahamian business at a disadvantage. By signing the CARIFORUM UK EPA, the Bahamas has effectively safeguarded its trade with the UK. The UK's Department for International Trade reported that the value of trade to the 15 CARICOM member states, which includes the Bahamas, was $2.5 billion in 2017. According to our own Department of Statistics, in 2018, Bahamian exports to the UK were valued at approximately $8.8 million, making the UK the fourth largest market for Bahamian exports. These figures are a testament to the strength of our trading relationship with the UK. But this relationship isn't just strong, it's growing. Trade between the Bahamas and the United Kingdom increased by 138% in 2018, growing from $21.2 million in 2017 to $50.6 million in 2018. This remarkable growth over a short period of time suggests that there is far more we can be doing to realize the full potential of our relationship with the UK. With a newly re-established British High Commission in Nassau, taking advantage of the trading advantage provided for by the CARIFORUM UK EPA has become all the more accessible. The UK has announced its commitment to support the CARIFORUM UK EPA implementation through development cooperation and has outlined 5 pillars of support for CARIFORUM countries. As I have said previously, as the Minister for Trade, I am most excited about the promise of £360 million in approved programs that support trade and economic development in the Caribbean, and the accompanying suite of trade programs supporting trade facilitation capacity building and standards. With a reopened High Commission here in the Bahamas, I believe that we can better facilitate the participation of the Bahamas and of Bahamian businesses of all sizes in the program. While the UK has committed to implementing development cooperation programs for the region, it is up to us in both the public and private sector to identify and take advantage of opportunities the Economic Partnership Agreement and programming will provide. This will mean remaining engaged as we continue to expand our trade relationship with the UK and using tools we have at our disposal, like the online trade portal. My ministry will continue to work to facilitate these opportunities through public education, building relationships with our counterparts in key sectors, and doing our part to improve the ease of doing business. Mr. Speaker, as we consider the trade agreement we already signed onto, we must also look ahead. The Bahamas is an observer member of the World Trade Organization, the organization of member states responsible for 98% of global trade and the rules which govern international trade. The response of the WTO members who are bound by the rules of the organization presents a unique opportunity to see how members interpret the rules and the impact of those rules on vulnerable trading partners. We are keenly observing what policy space exists, what tools and flexibilities are relied upon, and how would a developing country like the Bahamas, given its vulnerabilities, fare when those rules are implemented by other states bound by those rules. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic has shaken the multilateral trading system to its very foundation. The international community is now considering how it will respond to challenges that the virus has upended as supply chains are disrupted. States enact protective trading measures to protect citizens and business negatively impacted. The actions of governments left many wondering what could or should the multilateral toolbox look like to address vulnerability, secure resilience, and account for the smallness of small states like our own. The need for transparency and action taken by states became critical. Mr. Speaker, it does not bode well for our small country to remain on the sidelines when decisions that can impact our country's future our future's development are being made. We must find ways to participate in those discussions which will impact the international trading system and by extension, our own country, which is a part of that system. The Bahamas must and should be present and leading as discussions on such issues occur within the international organization's task to address such issues. Further, Mr. Speaker, you may recall that last year, Oxford economic consultants commissioned by the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and Employers Confederation undertook an analysis and trend assessment of the Bahamas economy over the last 10 years. The study is still relevant and remains the most recent comprehensive study that we have of key sectors of our economy. The Oxford Economics Report confirmed the findings of many of the government's own commission studies and the recommendations and assessments of the government's technical officers, all of which indicated that WTO accession can be used as a tool to lock in business-friendly reforms, modernize the economy, and unlock the country's growth potential. The report estimates that the potential economic impact of the WTO accession would be positive over the medium term for the country, with the near-term impact crucially dependent on the government's efforts to put in place structural reform. Structural reform, notably improved transparency and consistent application of rules and regulations governing business, reduce bureaucratic time delays with the introduction of modernized, streamlined processes, rationalization of the regulatory requirements for starting a business and strengthening of the intellectual property regime, policy initiatives to improve access to finance for SMEs, energy sector reform to lower electricity costs and improve reliability, and expansion of the trading and improvement of job placement services to increase employment opportunities. Mr. Speaker, as this report made its round, the discussion about the Bahamas becoming a member of the World Trade Organization were widely debated last year as the government sought to advance a protracted process which is now entering its 20th year. I want to be clear. While the minister-led administration is committed to transforming the country's trading regime and its laws, strengthening existing institutions or creating new ones to facilitate trade, strict timelines and meeting target dates are not the principal goal of this process. Paramount for this administration is the necessity to ensure that any trade negotiations that the Bahamas might be involved in are ultimately beneficial to the Bahamian people and the future development of the Bahamas. In 2015, a compendium of intellectual property rights legislation were enacted by Parliament. Regulations to bring the new legislation into effect have been drafted. Each year, businesses invest millions of dollars in intellectual property and want assurances that their investments are safeguarded. As the Bahamas seeks to encourage targeted investment through diversity, the economy is in a post-COVID-19 environment. To establish Freeport as a technology hub, investors will want to know that their investments are protected. Closer to home, it ensures that the rights of Bahamians, artisans, and entrepreneurs are also protected. Strong intellectual property legislation, which is enforced by the government, goes a long way in giving them that assurance. The government is considering draft competition antitrust legislation, building on an existing draft competition bill, developing scenarios for international design of a competition agency, taking into account the powers and functions of IRCA under the Communications Act and models existing in other CARICOM jurisdictions. Antitrust legislation increases competition in the domestic marketplace, ensuring that bigger players do not use their dominance to push over small players to solidify their position, in so doing, creating monopolies. This is critical for the Bahamas, where small businesses are the backbone of our economy, and yet still themselves without the protection in law. Mr. Speaker, the government will also seek to enact the following additional pieces of legislation in its effort to create an environment to facilitate trade. The Foreign Investment Bill will seek to codify the national investment policy to bring predictability and transparency to the process. The tariff quota regulation, the anti-doping regulation, the animal health, food safety and plant protection regulation, the protection of new plant varieties bill, the public procurement bill. However, the present crisis has set us back in many respects. Mr. Speaker, one thing this pandemic has clearly illustrated is how quickly we can make radical changes to our daily lives. The crisis has forced both businesses and individuals to change practices long held as essential and to adapt to new realities and the way that they conduct their affairs. The Bahamas must prepare itself to meet the challenges of trading with its international partners, and this will require change. Key for policymakers will be the pace of those changes. While we have made significant strides in the legislative reform necessary, more work is required. All countries acceding to the WTO share a legislative action plan with other WTO members. This plan lists all legislation that the government has enacted or plans to enact to support the WTO accession process. The legislative action plan remains a useful tool to assist policymakers in identifying legislative changes which will facilitate trade generally and are in keeping with 21st century trading practices. In keeping with this administration's commitment to transparency, the Legislative Action Plan has been posted on the website of the Bahamas Trade Portal. The portal can be accessed by logging on to bahamastrade.gov.bs. Mr. Speaker, as part of efforts to assist businesses in meeting their challenges of trading, our ministry will continue to provide support to local manufacturers and potential manufacturers who apply for duty-free concessions under the Industries Encouragement Act. And very shortly, we shall hold an electronic symposium to engage members of the industry. Applicants who qualify under provisions of the Act will be able to obtain customs duties exemptions on items such as machinery, equipment, tools, and raw material used in the manufacturing of an approved product under this Act. In addition, persons or businesses who have been declared by the ministerial order to be an approved manufacturer or an approved product may be granted exemptions from the following taxes, and they are customs duties, duties imposed under the Tariff Act, tax on import or export entries under the Stamp Act, and any other duties imposed on imported goods. 2. Import taxes. Taxes imposed on persons under the export tax legislation. 3. Income tax. Taxes imposed on a person under an income tax legislation. 3. Real property taxes. Taxes imposed on land under the real property tax. Additionally, customs duty exemptions can be provided to an approved manufacturer under the Act for material or appliances necessary for and used in the construction and alteration of factory premises, or articles imported for the purpose of constructing, altering, reconstructing, or extending the applicant's factory premises. Mr. Speaker, we want to make it easier for Bahamians to access the concessions and other advantages provided for by the Industries Encouragement Act. Whether you're here in Nassau and limiting your movement because of the COVID-19, or you are an entrepreneur in Meguana or Rumkey, you should not have to come to our office to apply. Therefore, we have launched our website this week, and I was told it was done this morning. Bahamians will be able to submit the IEA application and pay for its submission entirely online. Mr. Speaker, Bahamian businesses Bahamian businesses registered on the Industries Encouragement Act, the Small Business Center, the BIAC, to name a few, have to connect the dots in order to take advantage of the opportunities under the two economic partnership agreements and opportunities highlighted in the trade portal. Bahamian businesses must become engaged in the process, provide feedback and consultation when organized by our ministry. Feedback and active engagement are the most effective ways of indicating what works, what needs to be improved. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the importance of foreign direct investment in our economy, the financial, economic, and reputational implications for all parties, the government continues to work on the establishment of the Bahamas as a modern and sophisticated international commercial arbitration center. The government still believes that the establishment of the Bahamas as an arbitration center will not only complement the Bahamian legal profession and financial and maritime services sector, but will also stimulate foreign direct investment and other international business initiatives critically needed to diversify our economy. The potential for long-term employment opportunities for Bahamian professionals working in such areas is also significant. The International Commercial Arbitrations Bill 2018 seeks to make provision for the procedure for the conduct of international commercial arbitration hearings in the Bahamas has now been laid in the House. The Arbitration Amendment Bill 2018, which renames the 2009 Arbitration Act, the Bahamas Domestic Arbitration Act, and is intended to govern domestic arbitration, has also been tabled in the House of Assembly. We believe that the passage of two separate bills will bring further certainty and clarity to the law, particularly for those interested in using the Bahamas as a venue for arbitration matters. The International Commercial Arbitration Bill 2018 incorporates key provisions of the model law of the United Nations Commission on International Trade, law, UNCITRAL. The model law has become the global benchmark for good arbitration legislation and reflects a worldwide consensus on key aspects of international arbitration practice accepted by states the world over, no matter the legal or economic system. More importantly, the adoption of the UNCITRAL model law provides security and predictability to practitioners and arbitrators alike who have become familiar with its provisions. The incorporation of the UNCITRAL model law into our legislation on international commercial arbitration is a key element in establishing the Bahamas as a hub for regional arbitration. The corresponding provisions of the UNCITRAL model law has been included in the schedule of the International Commercial Arbitration Bill 2018 to indicate which provisions of the bill align with corresponding provisions of the UNCITRAL model law, making it easier for for practitioners and arbitrators. Mr. Speaker, we now move to the Department of Immigration. In 2019, the Department of Immigration celebrated 80 years as a regulatory agency. For 80 years, the Department of Immigration has been regulating the movement of people across the borders of the Bahamas so as to ensure, facilitate economic advancement, and promote the harmonious social development of the Bahamas through the collaborative efforts of responsible government and non-government agencies, both nationally and internationally. Celebratory events were held, which include exhibitions at the Maratol Mall and the C.A. Smith Government Complex in Grand Bahama, and commemorative church service in New Providence, Grand Bahama, and Abaco. Mr. Speaker, I congratulate the director and staff on this great milestone. And I also take this opportunity, Mr. Director, to congratulate director and staff of the Immigration Department who formed a part of the cadre of dedicated, patriotic, and committed Bahamian citizens who stood on the front line, Mr. Speaker, during this COVID-19 crisis without complaint. So I thank them for their invaluable service. Mr. Speaker, in direct response to COVID-19 pandemic and the enactment of the emergency power orders on 23rd March 2020, the department immediately developed an action plan to ensure business continuity in accordance with safety and social distancing protocols. While units at the Lyndon Pillin International Airport, Prince George Dock, and Grand Bahama International Airport remained operational to carry out their duties as essential service officers, staff at the department's headquarters who worked from home initially. On 20th April, a system was implemented where a select number of staff returned to work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays between the hours of 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. To this end, a COVID-19 hotline was introduced, and the number is 225-5337. And the department utilized its social media platform and website to ensure the public was updated on how to access services during the pandemic. All official notices were likewise publicized via local media. Services initially provided electronically are electronic extension on visitor stay, payments for approved permits. In an effort to ensure all clients were serviced as it relates to payments, the department implemented a service that enabled clients to make payments in cash, certified bank checks, and money orders through an appointment-only system. All clients accessing the service were made to adhere to safety and social distancing protocols as laid out in the COVID-19 emergency order. Also offered through the appointment-only system was the permit collection service. Effective Monday, 1st June, the Department of Immigration reopened our headquarters at Monarch House, Bay Street, and Hawkins Hill by appointment only between the hours of 9 and 1 p.m. until further notice. For further information, persons can contact the department at the number at 225-5337 to arrange an appointment Monday through Friday. This very relevant information has been promoted via social media, local press, and on our website in English, Creole, Spanish, and Mandarin for our entire customer base. Mr. Speaker, to accommodate such services in the COVID-19 era, we have acquired standing sanitizing stations, customer-friendly protective shields at all high-traffic enrollment sections, and cashier cages. We have also conducted sanitizing, sterile fogging measures, which will continue weekly for customers and staff protection in the environment. Further, Mr. Speaker, last Wednesday, we launched a state-of-the-art facial temperature infrared unit to verify individual customer and staff body temperatures prior to entry to the sterile areas. We also require mandatory wearing of face masks in the areas. These measures shall become staple in the agency throughout the Commonwealth in the COVID-19 era. Before I conclude on the measures we are taking to mitigate the impact of the virus, it is important to remind the public that Emergency Power COVID-19 Order, Special Provisions Amendment 4, Order 2020, affirmed that any work permit, annual residency, or other permit under the Immigration Act that expired during the period of public emergency shall be deemed to have been extended until 30 days after the expiry of the state of public emergency. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Immigration had 30 received an allotment of $37,113,709 to carry out its mandate during the 2019-2020 fiscal year. As you are aware, the Department of Immigration is a revenue-generating agency. During the 1st July 2019 to May 2020, the Department of Immigration accrued revenues totaling $57,465,076.24. Mr. Speaker, this figure is down from our initial projections. We would note that in our projections to the Ministry of Finance for the period 2018-2019, the agency had forecast revenue generation of some $73,871,294. Due to increase in permit fees and increased income generation throughout the referred period, the agency collected some $83,853,000. Get them figures now. Get them figures. Don't worry about that. I got it. And I can read good too. $83,853,424.80. An increase of $9,982,130.88. An increase exceeding 11% of our projected income. It is also noteworthy that for year 2018, the Department of Immigration processed some 153,474 applications. However, Mr. Speaker, for the fiscal year 2019-2020, during the identical period of time, the agency processed a total of 55,906 such applications for various permits and residencies. This is approximately 1/3 of the amount processed in the 2018-2019 fiscal period. Mr. Speaker, this reduction is not mainly due to COVID-19 pandemic. The nation practically shut down during the busiest period of permit expiring or renewing. That is beginning 1st September 2019 due to Hurricane Dorian making landfall, the impact of which continued throughout 2019. Mr. Speaker, we cannot forget the impact of Hurricane Dorian, the impact Hurricane Dorian had on our economy. Mr. Speaker, one of the areas the Department of Immigration is charged with is the detention center, is the detention of migrants and their repatriation. During my tenure as the Minister of State for Legal Affairs, I was proud to represent the Bahamas at the thematic hearing on the rights of migrants and their descendants in the Bahamas. I welcome the opportunity to continue discussions that started with the Commission during the hearing in 2015 on migrant issues. While there, I noted the many major initiatives that we have taken on to improve the facilities and systems at the detention center. I will discuss this ongoing work along with other 2020-2021 initiatives. On the 1st of June 2020, there were 133 migrants detained at the detention center. On 12th June 2020, 75 persons of Haitian origin were repatriated, which leaves 58 migrants at the detention center. Mr. Speaker, as it relates to repatriation during the fiscal year period 2019-2020, the repatriation cost to the government was $906,171. Note, this does not include the cost to repatriate the most recent repatriation exercise. The repatriation statistics for the period 1st January to 31st December 2019 were as follows. Mr. Speaker, they're outlined in the report that will be placed up on the website, on our website, that will be given to the media. And anybody in the public who would want to access them could access them, but for the sake of time, I will go through some, but they are all in the report. And so in January, there were 245, February, 162, March, 112, and so on. The repatriation statistics for the period 1st January 2020, May 2020 are as follows. And again, Mr. Speaker, they are lodged in the report. And so January 192, February 203, and it goes on, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, during the same period, January 2019 to May 2020, the department processed 73,871 applications for various classes of permits and certificates. 72,015 applications were approved and 1,856 were refused. In 2017 to 2018, the Department of Immigration embarked on a journey to issue asylum seekers certificates and cards to those who qualify for the period January 2019 to May 2020. The department has issued 9 asylum seekers cards and 10 refugee cards. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the Naturalization Unit Department of Immigration was relocated to the Monarch House, East Bay Street in 2019. This unit is charged with the responsibility of preparing and processing of applications for permanent status in the Bahamas, namely permanent residence, registration of citizenship, and naturalization. All such applications are prepared for presentation to the Cabinet for determination. The unit also ensures that Cabinet decisions are executed and communicated to applicants. Mr. Speaker, one of the things that COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted for the Department of Immigration is the need to implement a cashless system of payment for services. And I've been told to stick to the script, Mr. Speaker, but I must divert. I see my predecessor looking at me. But we have to change the way we bring monies into the system. Persons cannot be traveling from the family island with cash, and or in the alternative, or people who save all their lives for their documentation cannot be hiding them on their person to go to the immigration department. The time has come, Mr. Speaker, where someone should be able to sit in their home, whether it be Cat Island, Acklands, a young man who was born to persons of Haitian heritage and he's in Port-au-Prince, the businessman in Dubai, the person in Canada or in Australia, upload their application and pay online. That is where COVID-19 has brought us. And so to this end, the Ministry of Finance was requested to assist with the implementation of a cashless system, and preliminary meetings are being held to map the way forward. Thank you, Minister of Finance, for the prompt assistance with this. Absolutely. Mr. Speaker, and I was told, Mr. Speaker, that if we go cashless, it may improve our revenue generation and collection by more than 75%. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Immigration is an integral part of the government Ease of Doing Business initiative. With the implementation of the Integrated Immigration Management System in 2016, originally valued at $18,599.13, included was the development of 5 key components: border management system, watch list management system, and a management system, detainee management system, and the document management system. We anticipated launch of the pilot for the online portal, which will commence in the third quarter of 2020. With the application for short-term emergency work permits, persons will be able to apply online for short-term emergency work permits. And if all goes well, and it will go well, Mr. Speaker, we shall bulldoze it through. We will be able to make every application online. Further, there are tentative upgrades scheduled to the detainee management and identified document management system, with further improvements to the reporting module. The Immigration Information Management System was implemented in Grand Bahama and Abaco in 2018, and in Bimini, Eleuthera, Exuma, Inagua, and San Salvador in 2017. The project, Mr. Speaker, the project represents a huge investment, and because of this, we have formed a steering committee to give the project the focus it needs. And I want to thank the Bahamas BFSB, Mr. Ed Field, and a brilliant young Bahamian who forms a part of the committee. Mr. Speaker, I was stunned and amazed when I went through the agreement to find that we did not have a project manager or project charter. I don't know if I went to my house and somebody was building a house for me for $30 million and the plumber comes out to give me a guided tour, something else may happen. And so we're in the process of selecting a project manager, Mr. Speaker. The steering committee includes government leadership as well as members of the private sector with experience in project management and ICT, and who are regular customers of the Department of Immigration. I want to thank in particular the Director of Immigration. Mr. Speaker, as we look to the year ahead, the budget for the Department of Immigration reflects our investment in the officers that are vital to the department's success. Mr. Speaker, the department has lost a number, and this is very important. The department has lost a number of experienced staff over the last 3 years due to retirement, resignation, or transfers. Additional immigration officers are needed to replace these officers and to man some 5 additional islands and locations that are currently unmanned. If all goes well, the Department of Immigration is hoping to hire between 60 to 100 new recruits in the third and fourth quarter of 2020-2021 fiscal period. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, the Department of Immigration has not had a promotion exercise in over 5 years, and many deserving officers have been overlooked for some time. We are committed to conducting a promotional exercise within the Immigration Department as soon as possible. This exercise shall be merit-based with a view to rectifying all those irregularities that presently exist in the agency, in particular for trainee immigration officers, many of whom for years now are still not confirmed in their appointment. The promotion exercise will also focus on succession planning in the agency, ensuring that officers have a clear path for advancement in the agency. The ministry is actively consulting with the union representatives, and we want this to be a collaborative process. We believe that buy-in from those who represent the officers are essential to the success of both the promotional exercise and succession planning. Mr. Speaker, over time, a number of improvements have been made to the Carmichael Road Detention Center. Upgrades to the processing or reception area for migrants, the construction of 2 new male and female dorms with air-conditioned private dorm rooms and television facilities in the foyer, the purchase of new fungal-resistant hypoallergenic mattresses, a comprehensive on-site medical center with a physician who visits 3 times per week and a nurse who visits 5 times per week is nearing completion. The installation of automated IT systems for migrant processing and the maintenance of records as part of the $30 million investment in the IT system at the department. You might be aware, one of the largest allocation of budget for the detention center is food. In 2020-2021, budget estimated then $500,000 has been allocated for food at the detention center. The food is required for detainees as well as staff. In an effort to reduce the annual cost of food, the department has received approval to complete a canteen at the detention center. We anticipate a tremendous reduction in the cost of food. And Mr. Speaker, it's very important that early 2019 to note that the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights commended the government of the Bahamas for the advancements at the detention center. For some time now, there has been discussions about constructing a detention center in Inagua. There are still plans to construct a new detention center on the island of Inagua. The construction of a detention center in Inagua will serve as an economic stimulus to the island and could quite possibly serve as a temporary hurricane shelter in hurricane season. Such an undertaking shall reduce the expense and risk of transporting and processing detainees from illegal landing from the south to the benefit of all stakeholders. This remains on the ministry's agenda. The K9 unit. The K9 unit. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'm not certain of how many people are aware, but there is a K9 unit in the Department of Immigration. Our furry friends or officers are crucial to the work of the Department of Immigration and deserves to be invested in as well. The K9 unit in the department was established in 2016 and currently functions on both New Providence and Grand Bahama. The unit is headed by a former corrections officer and K9 specialist, Mr. David Roll. And Mr. David Roll, I want to say to you nationally, I haven't forgotten you, the ministry haven't forgotten you, and the ministry shall do right by you. All staff in the unit has been certified as handlers with the unit, working with the Bahamas Customs Department to train and certify officers from their canine unit as well. The staff complement currently stands at 8 handlers in New Providence, 5 in Freeport, Grand Bahama, and 7 thoroughbreds in the unit. The dogs are trained in tracking, crowd control, and drug detection. A request for kennels for the unit has been approved and is anticipated construction will commence in the very near future as the Carmichael Road Detention Center. Mr. Speaker, it is also noteworthy to mention that the Department of Immigration produced its first official annual report for staff and public review. The 2019 annual report is comprehensive and beautifully presented. It should be a source of pride for the director and staff at the department, and the public can expect similar transparency and accountability in the future. Mr. Speaker, I now turn to my beloved Yamakro. Mr. Speaker, prior to coming into or running for office, not running for office, but being elected to office, there were some promises that I made to the Yamakro constituency, and that is I would be present, I would not disappear, and I would make myself available. Thus far, Mr. Speaker, we have utilized the $2,500 provided every month very well. We've rented a structure on Cromwell Boulevard that runs us at a cost of $1,200 a month. And so through contributions, we're able to make up for staffing payments, phones, or whatever have you by contributions from members of the community. But from that base, Mr. Speaker, we're able to hold office hours every Monday if I'm not traveling, and the office is open from 10 in the morning until 5 in the evening. But for the fact that COVID-19 has visited us, it has made it somewhat difficult. But very shortly, Mr. Speaker, we shall reopen by appointment only. We have to take certain sanitization measures to ensure that persons who may visit can come to the office and have a sit down. I've also been calling persons, my team and I want to commend them for the hard work that they've been doing. And also at this time during COVID-19, I've been doing WhatsApp calls. We've been holding town meetings. We've just recently held a town meeting on the budget. And I want to thank the Minister of Finance for appearing by Zoom to address more than 150 persons from the Yamakro constituency. Mr. Speaker, we promised and we have brought to fruition the Eastern Community Rising Star Band. And from contributions from the fund that's provided every quarter, $25,000, and from donations, we've been able to purchase and bring in just over $25,000 in band equipment. And very shortly, after the dissipation of the COVID-19 experience, we shall be starting our band, which will result, Mr. Speaker, in theater on the park. Mr. Speaker, theater on the park takes me to the Yamakro Correctional Services Community Project. And what is this, Mr. Speaker? It's a project that saw the community of Yamakro interfacing with the Correctional Services Department to bring low-risk inmates into the community. And we had about 2.5 acre plot of land at the park that they call the Brent Seminary Park, and just opposite South Andrus House. South Andrus. And Mr. Speaker, I wish I had my pictures. But Mr. Speaker, they were able to cut through that like butter. And I cannot take all of the credit, Mr. Speaker. I must commend the neighbors or the people in that community who embraced those inmates and ensured that they got the lunch that they used to say, what you want today? And the neighbors get them the lunch. They seem to always like Chinese, I don't know why. And so they would bring them their lunch. And Mr. Speaker, they cleared it out. And what they created, Mr. Speaker, is a nature park. And you should see how they took the stones, they took out all the trees and left the plum trees, the native plum trees, and the raccoons are still living there. But what we did, Mr. Speaker, is on the boundaries, we planted cassava, soursop, avocados. Just last week, Friday, a gentleman from Freeport sent me more than 150 sugar bananas, and I told South Andres that he shall now soon be having his bananas, some is on the tree. And he can attest to the wonderful work that we have done, which represents one of the largest backyard farming projects in the Bahamas. We had a book drive. We have a community cleanup, Mr. Speaker. Our community cleanup saw us interfacing with the Ministry of Work and with their directors, and having key persons in the community go throughout the community to identify improvement in roads, drainage that need to be cleaned, the excavation of drainage, the removal of trees. You'll see all those. I want to tell the persons that all of those big cedar trees that are inside of Yamacraw, the tower over their houses, we shall soon be coming through. I want to thank the donator who gave us 6 chainsaws. And from the 6 chainsaws, you will see our rapid response hurricane unit moving throughout the community. And we're going to take that Kamalami tree out of your yard, South Andres, very shortly. And so there's constant cleanup. I want to speak to something that has raised concern and I've got great support from, and it was not to identify any particular person, but we have a cleanup campaign, Mr. Speaker, where we go and we look for derelict vehicles, derelict buildings. We're informed by the law, and we've entered into an agreement with a tow truck driver to move them up. And I want to congratulate the Minister of Environment, who has been assisting us with moving cars. But the community had complained vehemently about the Stokes structure, Mr. Speaker. We did our research and we found that from 2013, a group had placed an article in The Guardian looking at structures around the Bahamas. And so we looked at the Derelict Buildings Act and we saw where the minister could cite somebody if there was difficulties with the building. There have been 2 deaths surrounded that building. It's overgrown. But what we do, Mr. Speaker, is we try our best before moving in a certain direction to reach out to the property owner or the owner of the vehicles. And we're in the process, Mr. Speaker, trying our best to reach the purported property owner, who we understand is not in the jurisdiction. But we have our mandate, and we must serve the members of Yamacraw. And so the naming of the park, the Peggy Phillips Park, an icon in the community. Mr. Speaker, we've decided we're being a little selfish. But we've painted those parks in the Bahamian colors, and you go to Yamacraw, you'll see a big Bahamian flag posted on the wall. So you would not have no, you would not be, you'd know where you are. You're in the Bahamas. And so you see those flags all over the place. So with recognition of the park, I want to thank you, Ms. Peggy Phillips. We've established a girls' club, a vibrant girls' club with over 50 girls and it's a mentorship program. So you see, Ms. Anita Bernard, former permanent secretary, has been there to speak with them. We bring people from social services. We take them on field trips. We tell them about life, how hygiene, whatever have you. They're going to be a part of our band. Online classes, math and English. There are a number of persons to speak. I'm not ashamed to say that I did not finish school because of my reading ability. Eris Monka and Ms. Gail Wisdom were angels sent in disguise to help me. So there are a number of persons who need that assistance, especially young persons in the Yamacraw constituency. So English and math and a foreign language. Sign up. The Star Estates project. We went into Star Estates. There were some pothole issues. We contacted the Ministry of Environment. They sent the persons to repair those potholes. There's been concerns expressed about a nuisance. There's a yard there where sewage just pours. I went up there one day and the sewage was all over the road. I called the minister. The person is being cited and we're working to deal with that situation. The fencing in of their park, we have already gotten permission to get all the logs to fence the park in, because there are some persons, if you don't live in Star State, yeah, there's freedom of movement, but you can't learn up. They don't like it. And so we're trying to deal with that. There's some entries into Star Estates that we're dealing with the authorities to see how we can do that. And then there's the lighting on the park. I want to say to Star Estates that when we get our next tranche from the Community Development Fund from the government, Star Estates, we will deal with the lighting. And we've already spoken to a contractor who said that he can assist us. Walkabouts, we've been doing walkabouts, Mr. Speaker, in the community, and we are continuing to do that to find out what are the needs, the aspirations, and likes or desires of the community, and also to hear what are the objective observations. We like to talk about the positive things, but sometimes some people want to say how they feel about you. So you have to do, and we're continuing to do that. I want to thank my team for their support. Donations to the Elizabeth Estates Police Station. I remember when I was a police officer, I never liked the chairs, so they had for me to sit in. So we take some of the funds that we get from the government, we purchase them their furniture, giving them a television, and every so often, we go to the officer in charge, we gave them masks during this iteration. And when we get our next trans, Star Estates and Elizabeth Estate Station, we will come to you again to make a donation. Then we're working with the senior citizens in the community. We have given out food packages. I want to say I watched the news on this morning, and the governor, a leader in Florida, was talking about the responsible interaction during this COVID-19 pandemic. And he said that they're concerned that the government of the United States cannot feed everybody. It cannot properly respond to the health issues that COVID-19 has produced. So they're asking people to be reasonable. What I saw on the weekend, I'm just going to ask, we have been doing a good job. I mean, you listen to the former Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Bahamas, Ms. Alison Gibson, and her synopsis on what the government has done through Dr. Del Regis and the team. She said it's phenomenal. But we can do better. I want to commend the church for what they've done. They were saying, let us open up. If they can go to the bar and the stuff, we can come up. And I mean, when they opened up, social distancing, nobody hugging. And they did a phenomenal job. And I want to thank my friend, he's not a friend to me, he's a man to me, from Diane East and Shirley Street. He used to blow up my phone. They did a phenomenal job in responding to social distancing. So there's some senior persons in the community, and they can speak to the younger persons to say how to do it. Listen, we need businesses to open up. We now understand the significance of small entrepreneurs. You are really the drivers of our economy, but you have to be responsible. And what I saw at RRT, it leaves a lot to be desired, and I know that we shall do better. There's one thing I will be remiss of. Mr. Speaker, you see Cat Island sits over there? There's a reason why I say cuz. It's a term of endearment and respect. If I see him outside of the house, it's Mr. Davis. We celebrate him because he represents an achievement for Cat Island. He's now the leader of Majesty's Loyal Opposition. A member, he's a member of Loyal. Now, as one person who used to be in here would say that he liked you, but he don't support you. And so I like him and I respect him. So you would see me say cuz, and he knows what that means. If I see him on the street, that is Mr. He's a man to me. And, we have to do better. And I know the young man did not mean it. And Mr. Parker, Cedric Parker, I'm praying for you, Mr. Parker. He wrote an article some time back when Sir Linden was admitting office. And he said, we must be careful with the criticism of Sir Linden, that we don't denigrate the office. I thought there's a distinction between criticizing and really destroying, and still don't break the relationship because it's a small country. And I saw what the young man did to the Prime Minister. I know that he could not have intended that. When I meet old people, whether they are on substance abuse, that's a man to me. He don't do that thing. That's not how we operate. And I know that he did not mean that. And it's not a good example. And I know that we will straighten that. Office hours are continuing. We've done town meetings. We had the Minister of Education. We've had the Minister of Foreign Affairs. We've had the town meeting where we had the Dame Joan Sawyer as a part of our town meeting. So we select objective, impartial persons to come and speak on relevant issues. The Ministry of Works and the partnership with the Yamakwa community, I spoke to that. Partnership with the senior citizens, COVID-19, care packages, food vouchers, and assistance. Listen, we know, no matter what you hear people saying in here, Mr. Speaker, the government is trying its best. Every MP in this house has tried their best to give out care packages. When I saw Bain Town say he giving out all that food, I said, Lord, where he get that money from? Because I didn't have it. And I want to thank the persons who donated to Yamakwa to make it possible for us to go to Bamsi. I see my neighbor, Elizabeth, doing his best with his food packages. The member for Cat Island doing their best. It is a reality, and I want us to be real honest. That no matter what they say and saying the government got to feed everybody, they know it's impossible. That's why we're trying to open up reasonably. So I want to thank and congratulate every MP that has been doing, and the organizations out there who've been working extremely hard. The expats who have been coming in and doing what they have to do to do their best to assist. The Elizabeth Estates Children Home, they're involved, 10 more minutes, they're involved in everything that we do. You know, Mr. Speaker, it becomes extremely difficult sometimes. And it's nothing like having children around you who are innocent, pure in thought and heart. And when they come to our functions, they just light it up. Because now I've started playing my guitar again, and one of my favorite songs is Man to Man is So Unjust. I like Rake and Scrape more than that. Tree removals, we've talked about that. I want to just speak briefly to the tree removal situation on Yamakwa Beach Drive, Yamakwa Hill Road. There have been a number of reports that have been submitted, Mr. Speaker, and as my constituents call, I will provide them with a report, and which informs of the invasive and destructive nature of these trees and what the threat that they now present to the island of Eleuthera, and why it's very necessary for us to remove those trees. The Minister of Works said he will speak to them during his contribution. But what I've suggested to the Minister of Works is that we can partner. I've had discussions with finance, who's ready, willing, and able to assist with replacement shade trees. I would like to see trees that we could eat from. But there's an initiative to replace all those trees. But when I drive and I see those trees, what is surprising is at the core of those trees, it seems as if termites eat out the core. And I know that there are persons in Yamakwa who have asked us to lend them some assistance and come in and move those trees that are now towering over their homes. I spoke about derelict vehicles and derelict buildings. So, Mr. Speaker, I remain vigilant. I remain present in the constituency of Yamakwa. Our office remain open. And to anybody who wants to sit with me, sometimes I surprise people when they call me and say, Minister or MP, I'd like to see you. And I say, okay, be at the office at 8 o'clock. And sometimes when I give them those quick responses, they can't make it. But I'm available. I spoke with my aunt this morning. She says, when you go to the house, you're there to give an account of your stewardship. At the end of the day, what I came here to do to the Bahamian people in the constituency of Yamakwa is to say, I'm here to give an account for my stewardship. And to the extent that you think that I'm not doing what I ought to do, I'm available for a discussion. Or you can have my telephone number, 376-7723. Now, this is the problem I have. I don't be sitting down waiting for a telephone call. Some people would see you in the house and text you and say, Mr. Johnson, I see you in a text here, but I can't answer in the house. So with reason, I will answer. When I'm at home, I have, when you're home, you're under certain subjection. So, my auntie told me not to stray. Let me come back to yes. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, what I have laid out today is a plan for the Ministry of Financial Services, Trade and Industry and Immigration for the next year ahead. We are finding new opportunities in the financial services industry, even in the crisis. We will expand the economy frontier for Bahamians through trade and industry. And we are upgrading the immigration department to meet challenges of the 21st century border control. Our ministry is aligned with the Resilient Bahamas plan, and we are focused on strengthening the domestic economy and accelerating government's reform and national resilience building. I am once again humbled to stand in this honorable place and give an account for my stewardship. But I am proud to stand with this government and to support our plan for restoration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rest.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Central Grand Bahama.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I'd like to adopt a short phrase used by my dad, a Baptist minister. Whenever he would stand in church to give the sermon, he would say, I stand on no strength of mine, but on the strength of the Almighty God. I'd like to adopt that along with the good graces of the people of Central Grand Bahama. I rise today humbled and encouraged. Encouraged because there is hope. As one writer puts it, hope is being able to see that there is light despite all of the darkness. The Bahamas has seen darkness the past 9 months with Hurricane Dorian and COVID-19 pandemic. But the Bahamians I know are resilient people who face difficult times with courage and a resolve to overcome. Mr. Speaker, I stand here today on the shoulders of good people who gave this water key boy an opportunity to work for them and for the people of the Bahamas. My 2020-21 budget contribution as Minister of State for Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction is about hope, preparedness, restoration, and rebuilding. As an island nation, we live in a hurricane zone. We have an awesome task of preparing this country for the next disaster and rebuilding for the future. I say next disaster not because I want to affect the Bahamas, but because we must be realistic. Due to climate change and our geography, each year we are at risk from storms that are gaining indestructible power. As a country, we must put in place policies and procedures to ensure our preparedness and resiliency. We saw from Dorian the devastating power of the new superstorm. Dorian is the strongest storm to hit the Bahamas. It is one of the strongest storms in recorded history. It destroyed generations worth of infrastructure and investment in Abaco, the Keys, and Grand Bahama. Mr. Speaker, I turn my attention to the work as the Member of Parliament for Central Grand Bahama. Dorian's path affected all constituencies in Grand Bahama at various levels, and Central Grand Bahama was no different. We have continued the work of cleaning Central Grand Bahama. The road was a bumpy one at the beginning due to indiscriminate dumping, putting further pressure on the cleanup of our community. For the most part, we have seen a decline in this practice. Our efforts will continue and residents will remain vigilant to ensure our communities remain clean. We are still moving ahead with key programs to enhance the lives of the residents of Central Grand Bahama. Food security has been a focus. The COVID-19 pandemic has magnified the need for food security for our residents. We have kicked our programs into high gears to assist residents with backyard farming. During the time leading up to Father's Day, we will be visiting our Central Grand Bahama residents and supplying them with raised garden beds, inclusive of tomatoes, scallions, bell peppers, and a few other vegetables, basic vegetables that we use for cooking. We realize that some of our residents have begun successful backyard farms already, so these beds will be an addition to that. However, Mr. Speaker, there are residents who have yet to begin, and this small token is our way of saying, let's do this together. On Mother's Day, our team visited a few homes and did a bit of lawn care to show some of our mothers how much we appreciated them. The team, thank you. The team also distributed care packages for mothers in Hannah Hill as well as the Sunrise subdivision. We were not able to reach as many as we wanted to, but for Father's Day Backyard Farming Initiative, we intend to visit every home in Central Grand Bahama over the coming months to ensure everyone has the assistance needed to get their farms growing. We agree that this is not a small task, but if successfully adopted, the results could be a major impact on our future. To further support the farming initiative, we have recently teamed up with Mr. Donald Archer of Harcourt Investments and Behemoth Services to use a few acres of their facilities to establish a community farm where we will have a plant nursery, food production area, not yet, a fresh salad and juice bar along with farmers market pavilion. This facility will also be a place where we conduct training for those who need assistance maintaining their backyard farms. And this initiative is being headed by Mr. Anthony Hudson. I say thank you very much, Mr. Hudson, for your efforts. I would like to thank the Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources, the member for Marco City, for support of our program. We are looking forward to working with this ministry as this program will be a part of the National Food Security Initiative. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, we have spent the past 3 months in varying degrees of lockdown and curfew. During this time, families should have drawn closer. Family activities should have increased, and family time should now be more valuable than ever. These moments are priceless and one you can never replace once the time has passed. I know there are many fathers and mothers like me who miss loved ones, so I make this plea from my heart to all of the Central Grand Bahama residents. Do not let the hectic tasks of the day to take away the strength of your family bond. They are too precious. Mr. Speaker, I would like to extend sincere condolences to my predecessor, Mr. Nico Grant, and family on the recent passing of his son, Nico Jr. He was a certified architect like myself, and up to the time of his passing was contracted by the Disaster Reconstruction Authority as a part of our assessment team. As many of you know, I lost my son tragically a few years ago. Also, I am doing the name after me. This past Saturday was the 5th anniversary of his death. So this weekend was extremely hard for me. Like all the family, losing a child is never easy. On behalf of our team at the DRA, we wish the Grant family all the very best, and our prayers are with you. I'd also like to extend condolences to the family of Mr. Edward Poitier, my godfather, and someone who was instrumental in my upbringing. Mr. Speaker, so often I hear people make the statement, Grand Bahama can't catch a break. And believe me, I live it. I often feel those sentiments myself, especially considering we are experiencing a global pandemic immediately after the devastation of Hurricane Dorian. But we continue. On May 12, 2018, we relaunched the YMCA in Hunters Grand Bahama. After some $100,000 in renovations, we not only refurbished the facility, but established Grand Bahama's first smart park, maybe the Bahamas' first smart park. This center has since played a vital role in Central Grand Bahama and is currently being used for disaster preparedness training. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to thank the Minister of Works, the member for Carmichael, as I am pleased to announce that areas of Central Grand Bahama and other areas have been assessed, and the scope of works is presently being detailed, and road paving will commence shortly. I would also like to highlight a few of our recent initiatives. During the Christmas holiday, we were pleased to join former Minister Maurice Moore and Lady Moore and a number of local residents for the lighting of the newly refurbished lighthouse in Flinders Point, Lighthouse, a ray of hope. The expression of joy and excitement to see this landmark come to life once again was apparent on the faces of all those who attended, and the same sentiments were expressed by His Excellency. We look forward to the continued development of this landmark over the coming months as one of the sites identified in our Eco Adventure Park development program. Recently, we were pleased to work along with an amazing group of local residents to assist in feeding just under 500 residents at the Lighthouse Point in Flinders Point. And that's the picture that we have in front right now, showing us at the Lighthouse Point wearing our masks, and we fed over 500 residents. Thanks to coordinators Dan Rolls, Sheila Grant, Deacon Donald Duncombe, and other community members. This, for me, was a highlight as it proved the potential of how this site can be used and its possible impact on the local community. On Valentine's Day weekend, we hosted the lighting of the Boiling Hole at Lovers Beach, or Love on the Bay. We were able to feed many residents at this event and showed love in the community. A special thank you to Mr. Nehemiah Hill of Bahamian for the entertainment. Mr. Speaker, moving forward, we are working along with local industry partners to provide some assistance and guidance to those business persons and other residents who have been displaced by Hurricane Dorian and affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. We want to ensure that as much support as possible is given to our corporate partners and entrepreneurs in Central Grand Bahama. We know this is easier said than done, but we also know it is not impossible. Together, we can achieve a better Central Grand Bahama and a better Bahamas. I now turn to my ministry. When the government last year established the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction, it was done to bring new focus to how we handle disasters. And I want to say really thank you to the member for Kalani, the Prime Minister, for his vision in establishing this very, very important ministry. Now, the ministry's purpose is not to replace or intrude on the operations of other relevant government ministries. My ministry is the lead in coordinating work in disaster zones through the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, DRA, and it is the lead in ensuring appropriate measures are in place for hurricane and disaster preparedness through the work of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Our work is through a focused and collaborative approach. Mr. Speaker, the 2020-21 budget makes provision for funding the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction, DPMR, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the Disaster Reconstruction Authority, DRA, as indicated in the draft estimates of revenue and expenditures presented to the House of Assembly. Overall, the current expenditure to the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction is $11,236,100. This amount is broken down as follows. Operational expenses for NEMA, $500,000. Debris management by the DRA, $10 million. Disaster Reconstruction Authority, $200,000. Remaining items under head 75 allocated to the ministry, $536,100. And the capital expenditure, capital allocation for the ministry totals $6,500,000, which is further broken down as follows. National Disaster Recovery Project, $2 million. Hurricane precautions, $1 million. Acquisition of transportation equipment, land, $500,000. And minor capital projects, $3 million. Mr. Speaker, the total budgetary allocation, recurrent and capital for the ministry and its agencies is $17,736,100. Mr. Speaker, since the creation of my ministry, we have worked aggressively on developing various policies to enhance the country's preparation for and response to disasters. In mid-February, my ministry, in conjunction with the United Nations Development Program, or UNDP, and the University of the West Indies, UE, convened a workshop comprised of more than 50 people from various government ministries and departments, the private sector, and the University of the Bahamas to discuss meaningful approaches to developing a policy framework on resilient recovery. In summary, the policy framework focused on effective recovery planning and operation to enhance resilient development. The framework would also reference the institutional arrangement that must be in place to achieve desired outcomes. Last week, only last week, we received the first draft of the Resilient Recovery Framework. This document will be shared for discussion with a group of participants from the February workshop. 5 goals were identified as focal points for the framework: safety and security, access to infrastructure and services, community engagement and partnership, for livelihood and economic development, and institutional and capacity development. As my ministry and relevant stakeholders advance the framework through various stages of development, I intend to provide the public with regular updates. In addition to several trips of areas affected by Hurricane Dorian, I assembled a group of professionals comprising architects, engineers, and contractors to discuss the way forward on revising our building code. As an architect, and without any in-depth analysis, but subject to cursory assessment during my initial tours of island and keys impacted by the storm, we concluded that a review of the building code was necessary to ensure homes, businesses, roads, bridges, and other structures built could withstand the forces of superstorms. The meeting with the team of professionals was fruitful in providing insight on measures to ensure building standards are not compromised. It also brought to light that more inspectors are needed to ensure compliance in the industry. In addition to the meeting, we led 2 separate delegations of professionals to areas severely affected by the storm: Abaco and East Grand Bahama, including Swing Ski. And our Deputy Prime Minister and a member of East Grand Bahama also accompanied me on that trip. A report on the tour was produced by Craig Delancey, former Director of Building Control at the Ministry of Public Works and Utilities. The report concluded that the current building code, which are similar to the state of Florida, was regarded as adequate when closely examining some of the structures destroyed by the hurricane. In some instances, the homes destroyed by Dorian were the consequence of age and non-compliance to the building code. Failure to comply with building codes and the application of illicit practices in most instances will be exposed by the impact of superstorms. Technical experts were of the view that enforcement was lacking, and this may have resulted from the lack of adequate human resources. Nevertheless, it is my view that some revision of the building code and increasing the number of building inspectors will be necessary to enhance penalties assigned to infractions. This ongoing discussion between the ministry, government agencies, and relevant stakeholders is expected to yield positive results for the way forward. I am sure that the Minister of Works and Utilities, my mentor, will elaborate more on code revision during his much anticipated presentation. Mr. Speaker, much anticipated, yes. On the subject of building in flood-prone areas, I'm not aware of current restrictions to homeowners who build in such zones. However, this is an area that must be addressed to reduce the number of structures destroyed and to give early notice to homeowners residing in the pathway of flooding that occurs from tidal surges. It is worth noting that, subject to a conversation with Troy McIntosh, City Manager for the Grand Bahama Port Authority, we were made privy to several flood maps of Grand Bahama Island that captured the results of flooding based on tidal surges up to 20 feet. Yes, this map provides useful information in advance of Hurricane Dorian making landfall in Grand Bahama, as information on the tidal surge of storm was added to a statistical model projecting the areas in Freeport that were expected to be impacted from the floodwaters. Based on data received from the Met Department on Hurricane Dorian, projected path and expected surge of 20 feet, Mr. McIntosh and his team of engineers were able to project with a level of preciseness the areas expected to be flooded and the potential height of the water. The information from the model was shared with the residents and owners of businesses in Freeport. Further recommendation was made for people to seek higher ground. As we are all aware, in most storms, some people will respond positively to the recommendation, and others will take a position that residing in their home is their preference. As one who participated, and I can tell you this from personal experience, as one who participated in the rescue operations of Hurricane Dorian, I can tell you that failure to adhere to the advice of technical experts and evacuation recommendation could result in negative outcomes. And as you can see on this slide, Grand Bahama at 20 feet, 20-foot story, there are only certain portions of the island remain dry. Freeport Ridge, Coral Road area, the majority of Grand Bahama was underwater. And as we know, 80% of our land mass in this country is within 5 feet of the high water mark. So we must bear that in mind when construction. As I develop my speech, you will understand we have to elevate. We have to elevate. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to draw reference to the fishing hole. I'd like to draw reference to the fishing hole road. It's been a very contentious issue in our community, which is now addressed. Let me hold this first. The fishing hole is now being addressed. And before I put it on the easel, I will show you. This is the fishing hole road where people traverse from east to west. This image here shows the fishing hole road completed prior to Dorian. It was done. Asphalt paving, it looked good. He was about to open it. But this middle photo shows Dorian, the effect of Dorian. This is what it was before Dorian. This is Dorian effect. You can say, tore it up, fold it up like it was a carpet, all the ramp to the east and the western side. But we are building a more resilient Bahamas. We decided not to replace the asphalt again. What we did, we constructed a reinforced concrete ramp on the eastern and the western side. There's a concrete, basically a concrete coffin on both sides. So we are sure that this is a whole lot better than what we had. So therefore, this is a prime example of us building resilience moving forward, and our building code, of course, will address that. So, Mr. Speaker, up-to-date flooding map, and because of the map of Grand Bahama, yeah, it folded up like a carpet. It was not resilient enough. Up-to-date flooding map of the entire Bahamas on a micro level. That is, mapping of each island is necessary for planning and evacuation in the event of any oncoming storm. I'm aware that advancing such an initiative would require input from various government ministries, departments, quasi-governmental agencies, and collaboration with private sector entities such as the Grand Bahama Port Authority to effectively address the issue. I am also aware of the value added in drawing on best practices of international partners, in particular, the state of Florida, our next door neighbor, where regulations exist on building in coastal and flood-prone areas, and there's extensive use of flood maps. Mr. Speaker, I also wish to note, and this is again very personal, I am baffled that a significant number of people do not know how to swim. Considering the Bahamas is an archipelago, being able to swim, but this speaks to the Bahamas. Being able to swim can save lives during storms, particularly when there's flooding. Going forward, listen to me, going forward in our policy discussion, we as a country should consider the introduction of swimming programs perhaps in our schools. I reiterate, Mr. Speaker, having the ability to swim in a matter of life or death, especially in a superstorm, is critical. I had a niece and a mother in Heritage. The surge came, and she said, "Uncle, fortunately for me, I was tall. The water was up to her neck and she was bobbing. There was a tree less than 20 feet away. She couldn't swim to the tree. Fortunately, she was tall enough. She was able to get over there and hold on until help came. This is critical. My mother at 81 still can't swim. And back in the days, remember, I don't know if you know the term grubbing, they used to go grubbing in the mangrove. Not one of them could swim. But it took the time. So back in those days, we lived based on faith. But our faith is not as strong these days, so we need to learn how to swim. And also, as a part of this initiative, perhaps CPR should also be mandatory in our school. So swimming and CPR as a policy moving forward, we should really think seriously on these things. The Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management, and Reconstruction have responsibility for two departments, NEMA and the DRA. Both units are very important in our work as a ministry. NEMA leads our preparation for hurricane season. We have had the great fortune of continued support of donors to help us with preparedness, early relief, and early recovery. I would like to share what funds were received on the Bahamas disaster account, often referred to as the donations account. I want you to pay attention. This account is managed by NEMA with assistance from the Ministry of Finance. The account was established to receive and manage financial donations from the private sector and the government. During this period, September 2019 to May 2020, the account received revenues of approximately $16 million. 9.6 million was received in cash donations. 3.6 million came from government and approximately 2.8 million in the form of in-kind contribution, meaning food and other donated contributions came into NEMA. Mr. Speaker, $13.8 million has been spent to date with a balance of $2.5 million on the account. Expenditures include $1.5 million on medical evacuation helicopters, $16,000 on ferry evacuation, $250,000 on tent rentals, $17,000 for the rental of a generator for the Kendall Jail Isaac Gymnasium, $46,000 for washroom facilities to be added to the stadium because there was inadequate bathroom facilities. Other expenses included $2.5 million on RV or recreational vehicles and associated costs. Hook them up, so forth, up in Abaco, particularly to get services back up and running. $4.6 million on dome structures, and I'll talk more about that later. $275,000 on transportation and freight. $139,000 on debris cleanup. It's all NEMA. $113,000 other goods and services. Mr. Speaker, hurricane preparedness continues to be a focus of the ministry. I am pleased to announce that 95 shelters for all islands have been identified and are in a state of readiness. 95 of them. Now, in Central Abaco, because of the difficulties and the level of destruction, we have to look at other measures and other solutions for that area. But we are actively looking at solutions for that area that is mostly devastated. And we will provide regular updates. In addition, NEMA is currently communicating from north to south, all over, including the schools and churches and so forth. And we have reports on those. In addition, NEMA is currently communicating with other civic and religious organizations, specifically on the islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama. Many have indicated their facilities are available for use as hurricane shelters in the event of a storm. However, in some instances, remedial work is required. There is high expectation that the recent identified facilities will be added to the existing shelter list within the next 30 days, and particularly in Grand Bahama. And I want to say a special thank you to the Minister of Education, a member from South Beach. We were in Freeport on Friday, Grand Bahama, and we signed a contract for 15 schools. And these schools, come on, yes, that's deserved. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the classrooms now will be used as hurricane shelter. It will allow social distancing, easier to be sanitized, and based on the schedule that we are on today, construction is underway. We are 5 weeks ahead of where we were in previous years. So thank you very much, Mr. Minister, and to our team. The COVID-19 pandemic has shifted how we think about shelter. And some of the schools of course, totally scoped. New roof, all the works. And because of the damages experienced by Dorian, the remedial work that we used to do in past years, all of the school now will receive major overhaul. So plenty jobs on the island of Grand Bahama. Even in the construction industry, absolutely carrying government. Absolutely. My ministry and NEMA have agreed to undertake a classroom style approach, like I said earlier. And these, again, will be the focus of our reconstruction. And one of the things also that we're looking at doing in the future is having a resilient block that was presented earlier at all of the schools, where that resilient block in the schools particularly can be used as a hurricane shelter with all of the ancillary support, and more information on that is forthcoming. Consistent with other government agencies and again due to COVID-19, NEMA's action plan for the 2020 hurricane season required revision. COVID-19 changed the game. I note that the action plan included, among other things, a week of activities centered on preparing for the hurricane season. We have school visit plan, we have the National Hurricane Drill Plan, but of course, it is unlikely that we will continue along that vein, particularly in the face of COVID-19. But however, next year, we expect to carry out those exercises. There's also the expectation, when considering the recent opening of domestic travel, that NEMA will commence additional training in the family islands to ensure staff and volunteers are proficient in executing shelter management assignments. COVID-19, new health and safety protocols will be incorporated in all training going forward. It is also worth noting that in planning for the hurricane season, NEMA on several occasions held virtual meetings with family island administrators and its regional partners. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, SEDEMA, out of Barbados. All meetings have been very productive. Administrators have revised documents on protocols to be executed in the event of a hurricane. Execution of protocols begins when a hurricane advisory or warning is given. In addition to the provision of adequate shelters, ancillary activities must also be addressed for the effective operation of each facility. People have been trained to manage each facility, and in consideration of COVID-19, all facilities will be in possession, and I want to emphasize it, in possession of the appropriate number of PPE kits or personal protective equipment kits. The provision of food and other supplies has been addressed. NEMA is also taking regular inventory, checks of other items in storage facilities located on the islands of Grand Bahama, Abaco, and New Providence. Vendors have assured NEMA staff that enough food will be in their storage to address NEMA's needs and those of the general public. Mr. Speaker, after Dorian, we received help from countries around the world in various forms. I want to thank all nations who came to our aid during our time of need. I would like to specifically thank our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean through their assistance via CARICOM security, personnel, and various forms of other aids and technical advice were given. They were there for us, and we will be there to assist them in their time of need in the ways we can during natural disasters, as we have done in the past. I also express gratitude to the U.S. Embassy and the U.S. Northern Command Center for their assistance in our hurricane preparedness effort. These agencies are well represented in weekly planning meetings by Ms. Stephanie Bowers, Chancellor of Affairs, Commander Kevin Self, and other team members whose input in the planning process is appreciated. The in-kind contributions are generous. Goods slated for delivery under this robust partnership are small marine rescue vessels, building materials for hurricane shelters, communication equipment, virtual staff training in shelter management, and other essential items deemed necessary for shelter operations. I am most grateful to Ms. Bowers and Commander Self, as throughout our deliberations, they have shown keen interest in helping revitalize economic activities in the country. All items for repairs and operation of facilities will be procured from local vendors. Discussions with the U.S. Embassy and the Northern Command are helping further bolster our response capacity. And it's very important. In short order, the U.S. Embassy, and I want you to hear this, the U.S. Embassy, North Command, will gift the Bahamas with 12 rescue boats. These boats will be used in the event of flooding, and I believe that that reserve around, and this is the picture. This is a picture of the rescue boat. So we'll be getting 12 of these in the first instance. And these will go a long way because, as you know, during Hurricane Dorian, we use a lot of jet skis. And of course, we are looking at early response. And as well as you know, the U.S. Coast Guard was one of the first on the scene to provide rescue. But we'll be having these as a part of NEMA's asset moving forward. And we will build capacity over time. Yes. Additionally, the government of the United Kingdom provided naval assistance during NEMA. They'll be on various islands of the Bahamas, and then we'll add over time to ensure that we have adequate northern section of the island, central and southern section. We're going to build capacity throughout. Additionally, the government of the United Kingdom provided naval assistance during Dorian to its deployed regional assets. We continue to work closely with the UK and British High Commissioner Sarah Dixon. The United Kingdom has been a true partner to us. And during Dorian, one of their major rescue that patrolled the Caribbean received some damage and is now being maintained. It's up on dry dock for maintenance. However, these images depict 2 additional Navy ships that will be patrolling our waters. They have the capacity, these medevac helicopters on board the ship. They assured us that they will be in patrol around the region. In the event that there's a disaster, they'll immediately spring into action. So we lost, one is up for maintenance, and we now have 2, in addition to air support. So that gives us a sense of comfort, knowing that we have international support in waiting to assist us in the event of a natural disaster. I commend the staff from NEMA for working to secure these items as we ready ourselves for this hurricane season. Even if significant disruption occurs in the Bahamas from a catastrophic natural disasters, an alternative will be available for the adequate functioning of its operation. In short order, our ministry is expected to commence dialogue with stakeholders from the city of Tampa, Florida, with respect to having access to a warehouse in the vicinity of the port. This proposed facility is expected to serve as a drop-off point for donated items for disaster relief. I note that the western side, and the reason why we are looking at Tampa, western side of Florida was chosen because if you look at Miami or Port Everglades, the eastern side is right in the vicinity of the Bahamas. So if the Bahamas is hit, chances are that area will also be hit. So we're looking at the western side, perhaps in the Tampa area, just to stage supplies to be deployed to the Bahamas. When I was asked by the Prime Minister to join or appointed to the cabinet as the Minister of State for the Ministry of Disaster Preparedness, Management and Reconstruction, I was excited to have a real opportunity to bring all of my technical abilities to bear on the work to be done in this ministry, particularly through the new Disaster Reconstruction Authority. As a graduate of Tuskegee University, where my studies were focused on architecture, I was inspired to take the work of rebuilding our northern Bahamas on my shoulders with a team of dedicated and qualified Bahamians. As I traveled to Abaco and the Keys and throughout my home of Grand Bahama, I knew our work would be some of the most important work, not just for my ministry, but for our country. I walked and talked with many residents devastated by Hurricane Dorian. We lost lives. We lost homes. We lost our businesses. Many were in despair, and some even lost hope. Mr. Speaker, the appointment of the DRA board took place in December 2019. As a result of the catastrophic impact of Dorian, the board led by its chairman, John Michael Clark, invested much time and work into rebuilding. Clark, I want to thank you and your team of directors for your leadership and hard work. The authority made the decision to focus on what is felt were the immediate needs in the disaster zones. Some of those decisions were informed by town meetings held in Abaco and Grand Bahama. It was important to speak to the residents, hear their concerns, and guide our decisions by the people who lived this terrible experience. We began our work on the following priority initiatives: continue the cleanup of communities, development of the small home repair program, management and expansion of debris sites, construction of resilient temporary housing, coordination of school repair and new construction, design and construction of a community center or hurricane shelter, design and construction of mixed-use residential communities, installation of solar street lights, a risk assessment for the redevelopment of Durand Memorial Hospital, and development of a fundraising strategy. What I have outlined are the current projects the DRA is busy doing on behalf of the residents of Abaco and Grand Bahama. Some of our work is being done in strong collaboration with non-governmental organizations or NGOs working in the disaster zones. I will speak more about NGOs later in my presentation. Mr. Speaker, as you're aware, Hurricane Dorian destruction resulted in the loss of many homes in Abaco and Grand Bahama. We have not experienced that level of devastation from any hurricane in the history of our country. The DRA launched a small home repair program on February 10th of this year to provide assistance to homeowners. And as you can see, this card also, we set up offices in Abaco and in Grand Bahama. And to date, the figures shown are funds expended already on those islands. And I'll allow this to go on the screen. Yes, the DRA, and I'll go through my explanation. The DRA launched this program in February 10th of this year to provide assistance to homeowners. Offices has been expended. Offices have been set up on Grand Bahama in Howell, the Gregory Building, in Abaco, in the government complex, and in Nema, office at Nassau. Today, just under 5,000 homeowners have set up profiles on our web portal. 3,000 are receiving assistance. One of the great things about this program is the fact that Bahamian vendors and contractors are benefiting while homeowners are getting much needed assistance. Vendors providing building supplies, contractors doing repairs, assessments being carried out, just under $5 million has been spent to date on this program. This money, and I want to emphasize this money has been spent in the Bahamas with Bahamians working for Bahamians. There are still hundreds of homeowners who need to upload information to the site, bring in quote for repairs, or have their home assessed. Unfortunately, there have been a number of applicants who do not qualify for various reasons. Despite this, I want to encourage the residents of Abaco and Grand Bahama to register for the assistance being offered. And listen carefully. For small home repair assistance, please call 602-5363. For small home repair assistance, please call 602-5363 or register online at drabahamas.org. Register online at drabahamas.org. Mr. Speaker, one of the most vexing problems homeowners have expressed to our team is the issue of insurance. In some cases, I've been advised that insurance proceeds are being paid directly to a homeowner's mortgage institution. The impact of this is that in some cases, the homeowner is left with little or no money to repair their home. Under the present policy, those homeowners who have insurance do not qualify for our program. Insurance has been an issue for many people, those who have it and those who do not. This is an issue that we continue to discuss from a policy perspective. We seek policies that help more people access the small home repair program. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to note we have a wonderful group of young, energetic people providing good customer service to homeowners. They have demonstrated patience and care for those they assist, and I would like to thank them for their work. Mr. Speaker, as I indicated earlier, the DRA started the small home repair program in February, exactly February 10th. Due to the pandemic, we were able to work at full pace for only 6 weeks before our entire team had to work from home on March 23rd. COVID-19 slowed us down for the past 13 weeks, but we are now preparing to take our program on the road. Thanks to, and this is important, thanks to the donation of 2 REs RVs from the United Nations Development Program and the local Rotary clubs. I'm not sure if DPM had anything to do with this. In our efforts to move this program as fast as we can, our team will now be available next week to register people who cannot get to the offices in Abaco and Grand Bahama. So people who are still not registered, we are coming to your door, coming to your neighborhood. The work by Bahamian for Bahamian continues. Mr. Speaker, while the DRA has a well-organized home repair program underway, we also have a working relationship with a number of NGOs. In Little Abaco, we are working with Church by the Sea out of Fort Lauderdale. The church has bought the materials to fix the roofs of 256 homes, and the DRA pays the labor every week. This labor is provided by Bahamian tradesmen in North Abaco, and again I emphasize by Bahamian tradesmen. In Cooperstown, Abaco, another NGO team, GEM, or Global Empowerment Mission, has purchased some supplies for another 250 roofs. The DRA will be contracting and paying a team of Bahamian laborers so we can move that program along. That work begins this very upcoming week. Throughout Abaco and Grand Bahama, we have had other NGOs working on gutting, demucking, roof repairs, and mold remediation. We continue to thank them for their efforts. They have been working along with us so this vital work for Bahamians continues. Mr. Speaker, housing is a significant challenge. There is no way around it. I do not have to repeat in this space that there are thousands of homes that need repairs and many were destroyed. 32 domes were erected in Spring City initially for the residents of Spring City, Abaco. And I'll show you some of what we have in mind. This image shows the domes in Spring City, Abaco. It shows the RVs that we're using, and one that we'll be roaming the constituency, helping persons to register. These are the RVs that were purchased to provide essential services as we demobilize back to the island. And this is an image of the domes. Housing, again, is a significant challenge. And today we have 32 domes erected in Spring City. And let me explain what happened with the dome. Initially, for the residents of Spring City, some residents did not come when contacted. However, I'm advised that 29 families are now residing in the Spring City domes, and 3 are being prepared for families returning to Abaco. The DRA, we had 100 in the first instance, and we are increasing the fleet. But we have 2 RVs specifically designated to roam Abaco and Grand Bahama to register persons who don't have the ability to go to the office. The DRA has taken over the installation of another 170 domes to be erected on the property of homeowners throughout Abaco and East Grand Bahama. So we've decided to put the domes on the properties of persons who are about to reconstruct their homes. We met with social services and local government to verify the people who meet the criteria for these homes. The DRA team will be in communities this week in Abaco and Grand Bahama preparing the infrastructural work necessary to erect the domes and other container housing units that we just showed. Mr. Speaker, following criteria are in place for temporary housing. Consideration has been given to those families whose homes have been totally destroyed. Consideration has been given to senior citizens and persons with disabilities. Consideration has been given to families with minor children. We feel this is a fair process to first assist the most vulnerable in our community. Mr. Speaker, I feel the need to fully explain the Dome project, as there has been much misinformation on this. In the immediate aftermath, let me show this evolve. In the immediate aftermath of the storm, it was realized that temporary housing would be necessary for the island of Abaco and Grand Bahama. For Abaco, given the devastation of I'm about just over halfway, yeah. If you want. Okay. I'll break phone. Yes, okay. Yes, okay. We have 5 minutes. It was realized that temporary housing was certainly needed for Abaco and Grand Bahama. For Abaco, given the devastation of the areas of Marsh Harbor, it was thought that a family relief center could house thousands of people impacted by the storm. At that time, the NEMA, Disaster Relief and Reconstruction Committee was charged with investigating options for this family relief center. And Mr. Speaker, this is something that I do not want to rush, Mr. Leader. So I prefer that we take a break at this point, so I can come back after and properly explain the scenario.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Bamboo Town.
Given that, Mr. Speaker, I do now move that the House suspends and we take our luncheon break at this time. We come back at 3 p.m. today.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House do suspend to 3 p.m. this afternoon. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. The business of this House stands suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
All right.